outpouring. We are set. All right, Michele, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm going to do a reading that came from a minister that Reverend Angelica was corresponding with. And the theme this morning has to do with breath. And so if you just relax and listen to the reading, and then what we'll do is we'll have a moment or two of silence, and then Jackson will sing us into the next part of the service. Someone once said that when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. In other words, some people close down while others use the change to empower themselves. We might experience either of these reactions in ourselves when unexpected changes enter our lives. What we imagine coming from the change may either enliven us or scare us. We can build walls to isolate us from what is coming, or we can use our imagination to learn and grow. Imagination is a vital part of our spiritual life, our unity with spirit, yet it can go into dark and lonely places if we do not direct it. In the original language of the Bible, wind, breath, and spirit are the same word. We could say that breath and wind are metaphors for the tangible power of the invisible spirit. In times of change, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? As spiritual beings, we know that the answers are already within us. So a great spiritual practice is simply to take a deep breath and turn our attention inward, listen for our answers, and then use our imagination to move successfully through the change.
What happened? Uh-oh.
I grow in joy, I dance in spirit, I lift my heart in praise. I am God's love, I give thanks for good. I live my life in grace.
And as we breathe in to this idea of living a life in grace, I know that we are all part of the one coming together this morning to hear the joyful words of Reverend Angelica, coming together this morning as one on Zoom, a little different, but still together. And I know that that energy of spirit flows through each and every one of us, enlivening us and bringing us closer. And I know this morning that we will hear the right words that we need to hear, that the message will come forth and enliven our world and our week that's upcoming, allowing us to more joyfully walk our path in this world. And I am so grateful that we could all be together this morning and allowing this sacred part of the service to come back together in its right and perfect way. And so it is.
We are God's love. We give thanks for good. We live our lives in grace.
So aloha, everyone. Our talk this morning is just breathe, but first I wanted to make mention of two things. One, this is the first of the month, so and I can't see everybody, but I know there's some June birthdays here, so happy birthday to you, whoever you are. And the other thing is, this is also Pride Month, and so I absolutely honor, some of the riots and things have reminded me of the struggles that our brothers and sisters went through to be able to be recognized in our world. And so I'm glad that that's changed as much as it has. And, there's always more to change as well. And so thinking about this idea of just breathing, there's been times in the last almost 3 months, I'm sure, for you, just as there has been for me, when we find ourselves catching our breath. It's like seeing that video of the young man getting killed on television or on Facebook, and over and over and over. It's like, I can't breathe. That I think a lot of us are at a place emotionally where we find ourselves holding our breath. And the breath is so important. Our breath is the life force. God breathed into Adam and made life. It's spirit. And so each one of us has to remember to, let our shoulders down and breathe. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that the topic for this month is being a spiritual maverick. And I had to look up maverick because when I first saw the word maverick, the thing I saw was cows in my mind, the picture. Because in cows, the maverick is the one that, won't stay with the herd and keeps going off and has to be rounded up. So when I looked it up, it said a maverick is an unorthodox or independent-minded person. I went, yes, we're all mavericks, because we're in what would be considered by others an unorthodox tradition, faith tradition. And most of us got here because we're independent-minded. We don't want to follow like sheep or like cows. We want to move forward on our own. So I celebrate all of us being spiritual mavericks. Now back to the breath. So what is common, of course, Matthew Fox says, what is common to all paths that are spiritual is, of course, the spirit breath, life energy. That is why all true paths are essentially one path, because there is only one spirit, one breath, one life, one energy in the universe. It belongs to none of us and all of us. We all share it. Spiritually does not make up otherworldly. It renders us more fully alive. I know in my own path, many times I find myself being a shallow breather, not taking those breaths. And then I go to a yoga class and I go, oh yeah, this is how I'm supposed to breathe. I'm supposed to breathe from my belly. I'm supposed to take deep breaths. And then also I find myself when something is happening, I remember this memory flashes into my mind right now, being installed, getting the church charter in Hawaii and being installed. And there was my teacher, Reverend Helen Street, and Dr. Tom Costa, who was there to present us with the charter. And as I was being installed as the pastor, I was having to remind myself over and over again to just take a deep breath, and take it all in, what was happening all in. So this whole idea of the breath being the life energy of being spirit is such a wonderful one to embody. Because it's Aloha Sunday, I wanted to share with you a tradition that is in not only the Hawaiian people, but also the Maoris, the Tibetans, the desert Bedouins. Many cultures have this practice, which the Hawaiians call honi, of sharing aloha. And they touch, when they meet, they don't shake hands. They touch foreheads and noses, and they breathe. You know, when the white people first came to the islands, they did not know this greeting. And so they were given the nickname Haole, and Haole means without breath. We want to remember to breathe. So this is a way of sharing aloha. And aloha means not just hello or goodbye. Aloha means, well, here I broke it down for you. Alo means sharing or being in the present moment. Oha means joyous affection or joy. Ha is the life energy, the breath. And so if you look at aloha in a deeper sense, it doesn't just mean hello or goodbye. It means to consciously manifest life joyously in the present. So our breath helps us to come back from wherever we might have been mentally back into that present moment. I found this really neat page on Google Images yesterday, and I thought, wow, this is really neat. This ha breath, the ha or the breath as the Hawaiians call it, brings us, if we look at, these are all the qualities of it, how it can help us in our life path. And you notice that every single one of these circles around the center is strengthened sense. So starting at the top, our breath brings us a strengthened sense of belonging. If you've been in a group meditation, you know that you could have come into that room feeling separate, and then allowing yourself to get into the meditation and doing the breath, breathing together as a community, you begin to feel a sense of belonging, a strengthened sense of belonging. It unites us. The next one is strengthened sense of responsibility. When I mentioned earlier, having to remind myself to breathe while we were getting the church charter, I'm sure that one of the reasons why I was going through that was because here all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is real. You know, this is, and it helped me get that strengthened sense of responsibility. Also a strengthened sense of excellence. I love this one. If we breathe into what we've done, you know, the picture comes to my mind of people doing gymnastics, and they've finished their routine, and they're standing there with their arms up high and in a certain position, and you can see them taking a deep breath. You know, it's finished, it's done, and they know that they did a good job. You know, so that strengthened sense of excellence. The bottom one is a strengthened sense of aloha. Well, again, we just talked about what aloha meant, that joyous being in the present moment. So our breath would bring that to us even more so. That awareness that we go so many different places in our minds. We're hardly ever really present in the moment. I mean, think about this for a minute. You're brushing your teeth. And are you really thinking about brushing each tooth and how you're using your toothbrush and whether the 2 minutes is up if you have an electric toothbrush? Or are you really thinking about that? Or are you thinking, okay, today I've got to do this. Oh yeah, and I want to go get gas for the car. And we're not there. We're not present. So in the strengthened sense of aloha, the breath brings us back to the present moment. And hopefully it brings us back joyfully. In the strengthened sense of total well-being, if you take a breath right now and you let yourself take a deep breath and you let it go. Allow yourself to feel a sense of well-being. As you breathe, just let yourself feel a sense of well-being. You're right in this present moment. There's nowhere else you need to be or do or think or say or anything. You're just breathing in the life force. For me, I feel a sense of well-being after doing something like that. Now, the next one says a strengthened sense of Hawaii, but because we're here, not in Hawaii, it would be let's use a strengthened sense of community. Again, it's like the first one, going back to the beginning, a sense of belonging. When we're in the center, or even right now, while we're allowing ourselves to be conscious of our breath, it brings us a strengthened sense of belonging to a community. So again, let yourself just breathe. And breathe deeply. And feel all the people that are on this Zoom or are at Zoom, as I've been calling it. And feel our connection. All these words, responsibility, excellence, aloha, well-being, community, all of these words fit with our community. Thich Nhat Hahh says in Stepping into Freedom, he says, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Conscious breathing reminds me of the life force that is within me, spirit that is always within me. There's no way I can get away from it. It's in absolutely everything. And when I was thinking about this phrase yesterday, I thought, everything breathes. Everything breathes. The plants breathe. They take in oxygen and release something else. I don't remember what it is at the moment. But plants breathe, animals breathe, we breathe. Absolutely everything breathes. And when I remember that, then I begin to feel that oneness, that unity with all things. And for sure, during these past few weeks that we've been going through the protests, etc., and as my feelings have come and go, conscious breathing has been my anchor. Just taking a breath and getting back into my body. Allowing myself to know that there is that within us that is more powerful than we could possibly ever imagine. And regardless of what it looks like out there, in here, everything is well. You know, it reminded me again of that that story I've told a few times about watching Johnny Carson when he had the man with the plates on, the plate spinner, and how the plates, the guy set them all up and got them to spin, and he had them on poles, and one was in his mouth and a couple were in his hands, etc. And all these plates were just spinning and spinning. And then his little show was up, and he goes to sit with Johnny, and Johnny is talking to him and saying, wow, I just can't believe this. How do you do this? And so the man took Johnny back to where his setup was, and he asked Johnny to try it. And of course, Johnny couldn't make any of those plates spin, even on their spindles in their stand. And again, he asks him, how do you do this? And the man says he doesn't focus on the wobble. And that's what we're seeing out there, is the wobble. And conscious breathing is our anchor. So again, I want to go back to aloha. And as this beautiful picture says, aloha is a value, one of unconditional love. Aloha is the outpouring and receiving of spirit. So I know for all of us that we're living in aloha. We're having that experience of the conscious awareness of the life force within us, that ha, the sacred breath. I do want to, if you look at my picture, look at me for a minute, I want to share with you a manifestation tool that I learned a long time ago in Huna, and then I believe Reverend Wayne shared it with us when he was here one time. But you imagine that whatever it is that you want is in your hands. And you let yourself see the image of you doing whatever it is that one of your choices is, one of the manifestations that you want to create. And then when you really feel like you have that image in your mind, you see it in your hands, and then you breathe life into it and let it go. Aloha. So together, let's say this affirmation. I breathe with aloha that I might intend, speak, and act as a spiritual maverick, doing what is mine to do, manifesting a world that works for all. And so let's go into treatment. How grateful I am to be able to become more consciously aware of the life force that is within me, my breath. I know that my breath is the breath of spirit. It is spirit itself. And as I breathe in, spirit is nourishing every cell and atom of my body. As I breathe out, anything that is unnecessary for my highest and best good is released. How grateful I am for my lungs, these wonderful tools that bring the breath in and send the breath out. How grateful I am for knowing that absolutely everything is spirit. There is nothing but spirit. And I declare in the first person for all of us that I am willing and ready to experience even more of my life force. I am willing and ready to see it move through me out into the world and know that it is divine energy. It is the energy of love and life. I am ready and willing to know that who I am is of value to this world. And I breathe into that. And I release anything that says anything different. Who I am is the embodiment of spirit. And I see spirit absolutely everywhere around me, in nature, in the people in my life, even in the mechanical things or the technological things. It's all spirit, formed by our thoughts and our feelings. So I declare that this week is a more peaceful week for each one of us and our country. That this week is one in which clear, balanced, harmonious choices are made. This week is the starting of something absolutely amazing happening in our world. And how grateful I am for that. And I breathe into that idea, knowing that it is already so. So our eyes are open to it. All of our senses are awake and aware of it. Life is good. Life is God. And so gratefully I release these words into the law, knowing that they are done. And so it is.